Today I have a fast and fun project for you. You're going to want to make this either for yourself or as a gift to give away at Christmas or for a birthday gift. We're going to take a plain tote bag like this one made out of canvas, bought it on Amazon, and we're going to decorate it with this buffalo check stencil from Dixie Belle. This will bring this tote bag up a notch without the cost. Plus, you'll be able to have this stencil to make lots of tote bags to give to your friends, your co-workers, or some of your family members. Hi, I'm Cindy with Reinvented Delaware, and we love to repurpose and reinvent all sorts of home decor and furniture, and sometimes we like to get a little bit crafty. That's what we're doing today. Let's get started. The first step was to protect the layers of the tote bag. And all I did was I took a piece of brown craft paper that I keep on hand. I cut a section big enough and I put it inside the tote bag. That way, when I'm stenciling this side, it won't accidentally bleed through to the other side. I want to have a buffalo check design on the front of my tote bag. So I chose this one from Dixie Belle. It's called Buffalo Check. It's a nice big square, and it's the perfect size for the tote bag that I have. The paint that I want to use today is called Caviar. It's a luscious black from Dixie Belle. This is going to be beautiful on this tote bag. And I've grabbed a kitchen sponge. So you also need a paper towel. I'll be using that to dab off excess paint as I stencil the tote bag. I'm laying out my stencil to see how it's going to be placed, where the seams are, where this top band is, where the bottom band is in black. Plus I'm also checking over here by the side seams, and I thought it was important to point this out. When you purchase a store-bought tote bag, a lot of times this side seam would not have been pressed to one side or the other like it would have been if you made it yourself. So it creates like a little fold in here, a little pleat, and I want to make sure that my stencil is going to wrap around. So I think I'm going to stop and iron that so it'll be nice and flat so that when I get to that part I won't have any problems. All right, so I removed the paper and I went over to my ironing board and I ironed that seam so that it would go to one side. Now we're going to decide where to place the stencil on the bag. So I don't want to stencil the top part of this. Actually, I might. Let's see how it fits. Depending on the size of the squares, I want to see how it fits between the top edge and then the edge where it meets this black band at the bottom. So let's see which is best, to line up this edge with the beginning of the stencil, and then that puts me falling off just a little bit. I don't mind that so much. Or I could line up the top edge with the edge of the stencil, and then it falls off a little off the bottom, and I don't mind that much either. I think I prefer this way best. So I'm going to line up my stencil with the design part lined up with the edge, the top edge of the canvas bag. If you feel better taping this down, we could do that. We could run a piece of tape right there to hold it down steady. I'm a little bit of a free willy-nilly, so I probably won't, but if you are more secure doing that, go right ahead, please. I'm also going to pay attention to the edges here. I want this to wrap around, so you can see here that I've left a bit of a gap. I might even leave just a little bit more. Probably about half of that block is hanging off the edge so that that part of the design will wrap around. And I've got this edge lined up at the top. All right, I've started this corner right here, and I'm just not going to move anything. And if I do, I'm going to move it all together like that. So I'm taking my sponge, and in the lid of the paint, I'm using Caviar by Dixie Belle. I'm getting a very little bit on here, and honestly, I'm patting off most of it onto my cloth. I'm going for a used, worn look on this tote bag, not a pristine, all filled in kind of a look. So you can see a little bit of it here. You can see that it's not filled in completely. So I want my sponge really dry, and with a very light touch, I'm just going to start pouncing on the stencil going through to the tote bag. I'm not worried about unevenness because that is the look that I want. So this project, if you've never stenciled before, this is a wonderful beginner project because it really does get you used to what it's like to do this. If I want to add more color, I can get a little bit more color even off of my paper towel and add a little bit at a time. You can layer. So in other words, if I see that this is not as dark as I wanted it to be, I could just get more paint, dab, 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 and then go ahead and apply more paint. I'm gonna hold this steady and peel this back for you to see. Oh, I love how this looks. I love the unevenness of that. That's just really adorable. I'm going to do this whole side, and I'm gonna take my time. I'm going to enjoy the project that I'm doing and put on a candle, light a candle and listen to a little bit of Christmas music and just enjoy the process. Oh, I love how this bag is looking. One thing I want to change is, see the splotchy areas here? That's where I had a little more paint on my sponge than I had anticipated, so it came out a little heavy. I like the look of it, but I am going to add a little bit more. I want it to look on purpose, so that's a little mishap that I'm going to fix. I'll just line up my stencil. This is such an easy design to line up because of all the straight edges. And just get a little bit more of my paint onto my sponge. And I think what happened, I noticed as I was pouncing, this finger pressed a little harder than the other fingers, and I think that's why I got the splotchy look. So to recreate that, I'm going to pay attention to what this finger is doing as I am pouncing this sponge. Stencil, yep, that's it. That's this finger here, pushing down a little harder in some areas. That's all I'm doing. And I kind of like it. That's one of those happy accidents that can happen when you're crafting or making things. Yeah, that helps it to be a little bit more even. I didn't have to do much. I like that. And there we go. So my bag is completely dry and I'm ready to do the edges on both sides. I'm going to start with this edge first. All I'm going to do is fold this over to give myself a flat surface to work with. Fold out that paper so that this is nice and flat underneath. Make sure with that paper that you don't get it crinkled up because that could show up in the stencil, I think. Anyway, there we go. So everything's nice and flat and it's just enough to go around this seam that I showed you. I'm going to just line up my stencil, make sure I have the direction of the stripes going in the correct direction. In fact, I think I'm going to do it this way and have a little extra falling off the edge, and that'll just get me past where the seam is what I want to do. So I'm lining up the stencil with what I've previously stenciled. Move that down here. Let's see, where is that? There we go. And the top edge, remember we were lining up the top edge here. And I have the previous lines matched up as close as I can. This is a fabric and we're not going to get it perfect, and that's all a good thing that we're not going for that perfect look. By the way, I saved my sponge in a Ziploc bag to keep this from drying out while I waited for the canvas tote bag to dry. Just pull that out. Yep, nice and damp still. Put a little paint. Whoop, that was a little too much. I'll be careful with that. Make sure that I'm lined up here where I want to be. We're not going for perfection. Done is better than perfect, right? Okay, now I'm only going to do to this row here. I'm not going to go all the way. In fact, I want to tape off that area. Alright, so the second layer is done. You can see here where I've stopped at the edge. We're going to fold this edge the same way that we did the other edge. Alright, so I've got it folded over to just the exposed area, and chances are it's not going to be perfect, and that is okay. We're not going to worry about perfection. We're enjoying the project that we're working on, and that's what's important. All right, I've tried to figure out how to make this match up, and it's just not going to match up perfectly. So I think what I'll do is I will finish stenciling this all the way to the seam. Then I'm going to do the same thing with this side all the way to the seam. And where it doesn't match up will be in the seam, and that's on the side, and I'm going to be okay with that. I don't want this to be perfect. I don't want to take away the joy of making the project because it didn't work out perfectly. I don't want to do that. I just want to enjoy the project and make it look as pretty as I can. And this is a handmade thing, and that's exactly what I want it to look like. So it just so happens that the seam line is lining up exactly with this straight line here that divides the blocks. So I'm going to tape off this row so that I don't accidentally get any tape beyond the point I want to. There we go. Tape this off. That way I won't accidentally stencil beyond that point. And then I'll line this up again. There we go. It happens to be right on top of that seam, and that's good. I'll have to flatten the fabric as I go. This area will be a little wonky, and that is okay. The last step is to heat set this painted area that we just did on this canvas tote bag. So what I did is I put it over top of my ironing surface, and then I'm going to use the same paper that I used to protect the interior, and I barely got any paint on it. It's completely dry. I'm not worried about that. But I'm going to protect that surface with that piece of paper and heat set this here. Now I use steam. I don't know that you have to use steam when you're doing this. I am kind of trigger happy with steam, so I like to steam whatever I'm working on with fabric usually. All right, so I'm not sure if you can see it, but I did go off a little bit where the parts of the stencil where I didn't think I needed to mask off, I should have, because this is what happened. I don't even know if you can see it. It's very faint. There's just a little bit of black paint right there. So I grabbed my microfiber cloth, rinsed it out really well, and I'm just going to take that paint right off. It is not set, it is not cured, so I'm going to be okay to remove it just like that. It's coming right off. It's literally, I just did that about 2 minutes ago. So it has had no time to really dry, and it has had no time to cure by any means. Just gonna scrub it off really good. Microfiber cloths are wonderful, even without any kind of soap or cleaner or detergent. They just seem to pull out stains from things so well. And there you have it. So that's still wet. I'm going to let this completely dry, and then I'll do the other side. And there you have it. That was a pretty easy project, don't you think? With amazing results. Just with that buffalo check stencil and the black caviar paint from Dixie Belle. Look what we created from the plain, ordinary canvas tote bag. These would make amazing gifts for your friends, for your family, your coworkers. They could use it for, if you have a college student, they could use it for college books. If you have a mom on the go, she would love to have a bag like this to tote around all the kids' things and supplies. Or for yourself, if you need to run to the grocery store, you've got a wonderful, strong tote bag to take with you. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, could you please click on the thumbs up and give us a subscribe? We would love you to join us here on our YouTube channel and also over on our blog, reinventeddelaware.com. We love sharing these projects and these tutorials for you, and we sure appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.